one of the things I always think about is I'm not an expert on how the brain works, but we do make decisions. And I've found in life that more times you make the same decision, the more wired that decision is to get made. So to me, it's like if the decision is to study, the decision is to train, and you hardwire that in so it's your brain doesn't even think about it, it just already knows on autopilot. That's to me what it's all about. Like, to me, honestly, you could probably train 5 days a week, 6 days a week and get almost identical results. But that doesn't address the mental part. Like, to me, the 7 days a week is actually easier to do than 5 days a week, right? Because you still, every day you have the decision, like, oh, am I gonna take today off? Am I gonna go in? But when it's hardwired, it's like, honestly, sometimes you wake up, you're already in their car, driving to the gym or the park, and you don't even know.
You get down to the park and you didn't even or you're already on the parallettes and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even realize, I didn't even know what I was doing. Me and James, we got a little mini blitz we doing here out in California. We're actually out here in Santa Monica Beach. G, if you want to show them, this is the Santa Monica boardwalk over here. And we just decided to come out here this weekend and have a good time, train, do things the way we like to do it. You know, a lot of people, they come out to LA and they want to party and they want to get into the scene. But I think for us, this is kind of our happy place in terms of what fulfills us and, you know, the type of things we want to do. We want to be outside, maybe eat some good food, you know.
This is also where you guys linked up first, right?
Exactly. So, and that's another thing, is like, when you put yourself in certain environments on a daily basis, you end up meeting people who are very similar to you. And that's actually something that I was chopping it up with two brothers that was down here at the park yesterday. I was doing some muscle ups, started a conversation with them. And I forget what topic. We just got on a bunch of different topics, but we started talking about travel. And I said, one of the main things I love about traveling, or no, he asked me, how do I stay in shape when I travel? And I said, I just go to calisthenics parks. I was like, to be honest with you, that's really where I meet most of my friends. Because most people who do calisthenics, I would say, and from my experience, this is anecdotal because this is just my experience, typically are pretty open-minded people. They're pretty laid back. I consider myself an open-minded person. I consider myself pretty laid back, and they also respect movement. And that's something that they respect movement, and they respect the aspect of putting in a good effort. And that's something that I admire in other people, and hopefully people can admire in me, because it's something that I put an effort to. I put forth the effort every single day to do my best in terms of all of these aspects of life.
Absolutely. I feel like I mean, you have to do it to actually feel it, but it really is a form of meditation. You know, tapping into the movement, getting into a flow state, you know, being in a handstand, trying to hit a PR on a new movement. It's not something you can really describe without actually doing the movements yourself and experiencing it. So that's, to me, one of the biggest things I find fulfilling about doing calisthenics versus just doing weight training. It's not necessarily that people think like, oh, calisthenics is the secret to get shredded. No, I think it's honestly the secret to master your body and your coordination and your movement, and having kind of a connection with your body versus just trying to think about, oh, how much muscle do I have and how little fat do I have.
Man, you made a good point of the meditation. And me and G, on the way over here, we actually got into a conversation about anxiety. And G, you could touch on this too from behind the camera because they can hear you too. But we were talking about anxiety, and I was telling him, like, I was feeling a little bit of anxiety because I was late. I was like, man, I'm like late. I was like, man, this is not like a comfortable feeling for me. Like, I feel bad about being late and showing up late, and it gives me a lot of anxiety. And then we kind of got deeper into the conversation, and we were talking about, G was saying it was kind of a normal state for him to be in that anxious state because he always has so much to do. And I was saying that one thing I love about running, one thing I love about training calisthenics is that it completely takes away that anxious feeling from me, because when you're doing straddle planche push-ups and you're doing 90-degree handstands and muscle ups, and you know you're running 10 to 12 miles, like you really don't have the option to be thinking about a bunch of other stuff. Like, you kind of have to be in the moment and you have to be in the present. And being in the present is actually the best remedy to anxiety, in my opinion. Because you can't be anxious, because what anxiety is anyways is just like you're thinking about something else in the present moment that you have no control over. You always look at, like, anxiety is when you're thinking too much about the future, and when you're stressed out or maybe you're in a depressed state, that's when you're thinking too much about the past.
100%. I also want to touch on that schedule thing, man, because I've been feeling that exact same thing about always feeling in a rush, like every 7 days a week. I'm always like trying to fit in this. And honestly, that's like one of my biggest goals I've set more recently is I want to tap back into how I used to live life. And I think, honestly, I don't think humans are wired to be on a numbered schedule, right? You know, maybe we used to use the sun as a time of measurement. But I remember when me and John were in Hawaii, we'd meet at the park. We never said, oh, what time? We literally it's like, oh, when the sun goes up, we'll be there around 30 minutes. And I remember I would just wake up. I wouldn't be in a rush. I would eat my breakfast. I would be relaxed. And when I'm ready to go, I'd drive there, and we'd like half the time meet at the same time. But I've noticed like we live in this world. We
never were using alarm clocks either.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Alarm clocks are an absolute toxic thing. And to me, honestly, this hard scheduled